This is a compilation of all the videos that I've made on article writing. I've put them all together so that it's easy for you. You don't have to look for the individual lessons. It is a long video that includes everything in yellow, such as the candidate response, templates, examiner comments, what tense to use, punctuation, and sentence variety. Ideally, you should sit down and take notes, but you don't have enough time to sit down for 1.5 hours. You may want to watch this when you're exercising, when you are having your meals, or when you're waiting. If you're watching this while you're doing something else, do remember to take screenshots and make notes later. For anyone interested in tutoring, you can contact me at englishstepbystep@yahoo.com or sumei888@hotmail.com. You can also leave me a message on one of my videos, just in case your email goes into my junk folder. Please enjoy the video. If you're doing article writing for the first time or the first few times, or if you're struggling with article writing, you have come to the right place. Welcome to English Step by Step. My name is Miss Wee. My channel provides free lessons for IGCSE first and second language. In this video, I will be doing the May-June 2024 paper 1-2. This is the question. Your local newspaper has asked readers to send in articles about whether your town is a good place for teenagers to live. You decide to write an article for the newspaper. So it's basically the same thing as writing an article for a magazine. In your article, write about whether you think your town is a good place for teenagers to live. And here are some comments from your friends. I think the entertainment here is more for adults than us. Everything is so expensive in the town center. So these are negative points. There are lots of places for people our age to meet up. Getting from one part of town to another is easy. These are positive points. Now write an article for the local newspaper giving your views. Write about 120 to 160 words. I'm going to write somewhere in between this. So first highlight the keywords. So this is important. You have to know the format. And this is the purpose, whether you think your town is a good place for teenagers to live. So these are the negative points and these are the positive points. I'm just going to use two of them, one negative and one positive, because this video is for beginners. I won't use all. If you're interested in the more advanced video for article writing, please click on the link above. It says here to use some ideas of your own. I should have highlighted this, and therefore I have given my own points. Another negative point is that the crime rate is rather high in this town. And another positive point is that there are good schools in our town. Now you need to develop your points because you get marks for development. The crime rate is rather high and it's not safe for teenagers to go out at night. For this point, there are good schools in our town and teenagers can have a good education. The next thing I have to do is to change the comments into my own words. So instead of saying everything is so expensive, I might say that the cost of living is very high. Another way of saying getting from one part of town to another is easy, I might say public transport is developed. And then I also need to develop the points that are given. For the cost of living, I might say, sorry, this should be, it may not be possible for teenagers to participate in many activities. Public transport is developed, so it's easy to go to school and to the malls or wherever else. We are going to use this template that I gave viewers in another video. If you're interested in the 4 templates for report, review, article, and essay, please click on the link above. Now, because this video is for beginners, I'm going to simplify the template a little bit. So instead of using point and counter argument, because that may be a little bit challenging for beginners, I'm going to just use point and development. I'm also going to stop at 2 points and not have 3. So this is the adjusted template. I'm going to use, as you can see here, point and development, and there are only 2 points per paragraph. So after filling the blanks with the notes that I made on the question paper, this is what it looks like.
Is Novatown good for teenagers? Do you like living in a modern town? There are many reasons why Novatown is an attractive place for young people. On the one hand, living in Novatown can be advantageous for teenagers. Firstly, the town boasts numerous high-quality schools, ensuring that students receive a strong education. Secondly, the well-developed public transport system allows residents to commute conveniently to schools, shopping malls, and other essential locations. On the other hand, taking up residence in Novatown can also cause problems for youngsters. To begin with, the high cost of living, which may prevent some teenagers from participating in various recreational activities. Furthermore, some residents express concerns about the town's crime rate, particularly at night. All in all, Novatown provides a good environment for teenagers, thanks to its excellent educational institutions and efficient public transport.
Sorry, I've made a mistake here. It should be the high cost of living may prevent some teenagers from participating in various recreational activities. This word shouldn't be here. So this is what it should look like. This is the title. Underline your title. This is the introductory paragraph. The paragraph introducing the positive points, negative points, and then the conclusion. So you can see that I have made some adjustments, and sometimes you will have to do the same if the template is not 100% suitable for the question. So I just want to point out a few things very quickly. Here I have used present tense. I have included some less common vocabulary, which is important. If you want to get a high score, you will also need to use advanced sentence structures. I have a video on sentence structures. I will put a link up here. I also have a video for present tenses and also less common vocabulary. You can look for these videos on your own on my channel. I hope that you have found this video helpful. If so, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future lessons. Welcome to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee, and in this video, we are going to do article writing. This is for the IGCSE English Second Language, either the 0510 paper or 0511 paper. So an article should inform, persuade, and engage. It should, of course, fulfill the task, that is to answer the question. It should provide a balanced argument and let the reader make up their own mind regarding the topic. It should be semi-formal and appropriate for the audience, include a range of grammatical structures and less common vocabulary in order to get a few more marks. So the steps: first, read the question and highlight the keywords as usual. Plan your answer, both positive and negative points, and don't forget to develop them. Then write the article and include a title or heading. Check your writing for grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Here we have an example task. In class, you recently had a discussion about whether towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. You have decided to write an article for your school magazine. Here are some comments from students in your class. So we have some negative ones here. It's a lot of hard work to look after a park. We need more houses, not more green spaces. And here we have positive ones. I've highlighted the words that I want to use. So here I love running in a park. I'm going to talk about exercising later. Seeing birds in the trees is lovely. So I'm going to talk about nature. Now write an article for your school magazine giving your views. So the genre is an article and the audience is your schoolmates. So you have to be rather informal. Now let's look at the examiner comments. So you have to plan before you start writing, which is what I will do with you later. You should know the purpose of the article, which is to express your opinion about whether towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. Your audience is your classmates or your schoolmates. This one is very important. So you can use some of the ideas from the comments here, but you should expand on them. So don't just lift them as they are, paraphrase, adapt, develop, and then also include your own ideas. So this particular one should be informal to semi-formal. So the word limit is just a guidance for your time management. So if you go a little bit over, it's not a problem. So this is an example candidate response: parks and green spaces. Every towns and cities always have parks and green spaces for residents, but are they beneficial? So there's a heading and there's a rhetorical question. Firstly, those in support of having more parks and green spaces believe that having such will not cause harm to the environment, and it can benefit them financially by hosting small parties at the green spaces, such as couples going there for a picnic. Also, parents can benefit by taking their children to the parks as a way of getting fresh air and using the playground as a way of exercising. So in this paragraph, this student has talked about the benefits, and the student has also used linking words like firstly, also, however, furthermore. However, those who are against the idea of having more parks and green spaces believe that there are some people who still cannot afford a place to start their business. Furthermore, whenever an event takes place at the green spaces, there will always be a group of people who will disrespect the environment by leaving litter on the grass. Lastly, it will take months for the grass to be fully green and maintained. There are a few attempts at more complex sentence structures, but the points here are not really relevant. In conclusion, I believe that the towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces because once it is well taken care of, it can attract visitors from other countries as a way of increasing our reputation. So the register is correct. So this student got 10 out of 15 marks. So let's see how the candidate could have improved their answer. So I have underlined the negative remarks. So the first one is what I mentioned earlier. One of the paragraphs was out of point. The rest of the ideas in this paragraph are about the negative impacts people can have on parks rather than reasons against more green spaces. So that's a negative comment. The next comment is that the conclusion could have been more persuasive. Also, the vocabulary is rather repetitive and fairly common, so the candidate could have chosen more complex vocabulary. And most of the sentence structures used are relatively simple. In some phrasing, it's rather awkward. Now, I have included another question and candidate response. So here in class, you have been discussing whether it is important for all students to have music lessons at school. So negative, there are more important things to do at school. And positive, I think I improve in my other subjects as well. So write an article. So here is an example candidate response. So this candidate did well. It is popular belief that having music lessons at school improves other subjects, and I, for one, wholeheartedly favor this. So a brief introduction and where the candidate clearly states an opinion. There is good use of the persuasive word wholeheartedly. Most schools' opening time is in the morning, and at this time, most students are not fresh and not prepared for studying. Music solves this by forcefully awakening the body from its slumber-like state. Personally, speaking from experience, listening to music before coming to school keeps the brain active. In the second paragraph, the candidate uses a range of accurate and more complex vocabulary, such as forcefully awakening and slumber-like state. Music also helps a person's concentration, as playing music can not only be hard but also agonizing, as having to do a repeat just because you missed a single string on a guitar makes you concentrate more so as to not make the same mistake twice and waste your time. This helps greatly in increasing your brain activity at the same time increasing your concentration. So in the third paragraph, the idea of music increasing concentration is an implicit reference to the benefits of music lessons within the learning context. It is a general statement, however, and could be linked more closely to studying at school. Many people would state that utilizing that great amount of concentration would likely mentally fatigue the person. And yes, while this may be accurate to some levels, it is not completely accurate due to this only happening the first few days, after which it becomes a routine for the body. So the candidate develops the idea detailed in the previous paragraph. The candidate acknowledges an alternative viewpoint with the expression, yet while this may be accurate, this is a very appropriate and sophisticated approach when writing formal articles. So I've highlighted this in yellow because we will be attempting this later. In conclusion, I would state that it is extremely important, and I would call it a necessity, to have music lessons at school, and it would be extremely beneficial in the long run. So in the concluding paragraph, the candidate uses appropriately forceful language. So example, extremely important, necessity, extremely beneficial. The candidate makes good use of paragraphs, including an introduction and conclusion, and these separate the different ideas and give balance to the whole piece. Okay, and then there's appropriate register, and there's use of both complex and more common language. So this candidate got 14 out of 16, and how the candidate could have improved, there could have been more points. This candidate only had 1 point in each paragraph, and also relate them closely to school. So we have done question 1. We have read 2 questions actually, but we will be attempting the first one. So we're going to do the next step, which is to plan your answer. So this is my planning. I have positive points and negative points. I've developed the positive points and counter-argued the negative ones. So positive points, I've got 2 from the prompt and 1 of my own. I love running in the park. Development, it's a good place to get some exercise. Seeing birds in the trees is lovely. We hardly have any contact with nature these days. And this is my point. It's a cheap place to meet friends. Meeting in malls and cafes isn't affordable for young people. Negative ones, these 2 are from the prompt. It's a lot of hard work to look after a park, and my counter argument, the benefits outweigh the costs. We need more houses, not green spaces, and my counter argument is that vertical housing, which means apartments, would solve the problem. Negative point of my own, green spaces occupy land that can be used for buildings. And the counter argument is that living in a concrete jungle is unhealthy. So we have planned the answer. Now I'm going to write the article. First, let's talk about organization. So I will have 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph is the introduction. I will outline the main point of the article, and I will include a rhetorical question. The next paragraph, I will put in the positive points, and then the negative ones in the next paragraph. And in the last paragraph, I will do a conclusion in which I will persuade the reader to agree with me. And this is what the article looks like. Parks and green spaces, that's the heading. Can you imagine not seeing a tree for days on end? That's the rhetorical question. That might happen if there weren't any parks and green spaces in towns and cities. Parks are so important to us. Firstly, they are good places to get some exercise, especially jogging or cycling. Moreover, green spaces are where city dwellers connect with nature and see flowers and birds. What's more, parks are budget-friendly places for young people who can't afford malls or cafes to meet up with friends. Some people say that park maintenance can be labor-intensive, but the benefits definitely outweigh the costs. Then there are those who say we need the space for houses. However, vertical housing is probably a better solution to this problem than eradicating parks. Perhaps they want more buildings in the city, but living in the concrete jungle is terribly unhealthy. All in all, green spaces are essential for cities. We need more parks and gardens to improve quality of life. So let me break it down for you. So I have the heading, the introduction, and I've included a rhetorical question. I have my positive points in this paragraph. I have used transitions, they are in red. I have included some complex sentence structures. And then I have my negative points, and I have counter-argued those points. I have used less common vocabulary. I've underlined them. And then I have a conclusion that is persuasive. That's all for now. If you have questions or want tutoring, you can contact me here. Today, I'm going to make it easy for you by giving you some free templates that will help you ace your exams with confidence. Now, these templates are designed to make your writing clear, structured, and easy to follow, which is exactly what examiners are looking for. So whether you're preparing for the ESL paper or doing an assignment, these templates will make it simple, fast, and most importantly, stress-free. So do watch this video till the end because I'm going to walk you through each template and show you exactly how to use them to nail your exam. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So welcome back to my channel, English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee, and we are going to start with a report. So this is the template for a report. Up here, for the heading, we have report, colon, and look at what the topic is from the prompt and just insert it here. Then we have subheadings, introduction, positive points, negative points, and suggestions. Please underline them. And we will start this way. This report evaluates, so whatever it is you are evaluating, and then give some details, attended by, so the who, the when, and the where, highlighting both positive and negative aspects and suggestions for improvement. So try to fill in as many of the blanks as possible. If they are not relevant, then just ignore them. Now, positive points, we have 3 here. Firstly, put in your point and development. Secondly, point and development. Finally, point and development. Do note that it's not necessary to have 3. You can stop at 2 if you want. Same thing for negative points. So we start with however, point and development, furthermore, point and development, besides, point and development. Again, you can stop at 2 if you want. Then we have suggestions to improve future, whatever it is. There should be point and development, moreover, point and development, in addition, point and development. Again, you can stop at 2. Now let's try and apply it to an exam question. I have made a video on how to write a report in detail. If you would like to watch that video now, you can click on this link up here. I'm also going to put a link in the description box below. So if you want to watch it later, you can click on that link. Now, this question is about a one-day sports festival. So here I have report, sports festival. Introduction, this report evaluates the one-day sports festival attended by our class 11A on August 12, 2024 at the National Stadium, highlighting both positive aspects and areas for improvement. So it's very simple, just fill in the blanks. So for positive points, I'm going to take 2 from the prompt. Here we have, it was a chance to meet students from other schools and I learned a lot about fitness. So I'm going to start with this one. Firstly, the event provided valuable insights into how fitness can enhance academic performance. This is my development. This is my own point. Secondly, it motivated some of us to take up badminton regularly. And this is this point here. Finally, it allowed us to connect with students from other schools. My development is that the students are from national and international schools. Moving on to negative points, you will see from the prompt that there weren't many new sports to try, and we spent too much time listening to instructions. So, however, the variety of sports was limited, and my development is football, badminton, basketball, and volleyball, which left many students wanting more diversity. Furthermore, the instructors' speeches were lengthy and uninspiring. Then my own point, besides, the one-day duration was insufficient as it did not allow us to fully explore the available activities. Lastly, we have suggestions. To improve future festivals, there should be a broader range of sports, such as rock climbing, archery, and fencing. Moreover, talks by instructors should be made shorter and more engaging. In addition, an extended duration would also greatly enhance the overall experience. So I have 3 suggestions here. Now I have a couple of exam questions here for you to try to put into the template. If you have any problems, leave a comment in the comment section below and I will try to help you out. Now we're going to move on to review writing. So this is the template for review writing. In the heading, we have a review of, and then look at what you're reviewing from the prompt. Underline this heading. So give the name of what you're reviewing and as many of these details as possible. So where, when, who, etc. has become very popular. Last weekend, I visited, I read, I watched this, whatever it was, and was impressed. So let's start with the positive points. Firstly, we have point and development. Secondly, same, and finally. So again, you can stop at 2 if you want. And now moving on to the negative points. However, point and development, furthermore, same, and besides. And this is the conclusion. Despite the minor drawbacks, there should be an S here. Sorry about that. Whatever it is a grade 4. And so here we want to summarize the positive points. So put a positive point here and another one here. Makes it ideal. I highly recommend it. Again, I have made a video on review writing in detail. If you would like to watch that video now, you can click on this link here, or you can click on the link in the description box. So here we are reviewing a new shopping center. I've given the new shopping center a name. So in the heading, we have a review of the new Empire Shopping Center. And then I've just filled in the blanks. Empire Shopping Center, the new mall that opened in Kuala Lumpur. So I have the location and the time it was opened. Has quickly become very popular. Last weekend, I visited this mall and was impressed. So firstly, secondly, and thirdly, I've put in the point and development, point and development, point and development. 2 of the points are from the prompt, and 1 of them is my own point. And the same for the negative points. We have, however, furthermore, besides. Here, my developments are actually counter arguments. So for example, some shoppers find the goods here more expensive than in others, although I personally found the eateries very reasonable. So that's a counter argument. Do watch the video on review writing if you don't understand what I'm saying. And if you have difficulty with counter argument, you can just also provide a simple development. And then we have the conclusion. Despite these minor drawbacks, Empire Shopping Center is a great destination for socializing. Its lively atmosphere combined with the cinema and cafe makes it ideal. So it's a summary of the positive points and a general statement as well. I highly recommend it. Again, I've given you 2 exam questions to try. See if you can fill in the blanks in the template. If not, just leave a comment in the comment section below and I will try to help you with it. Now we have article writing. And here is the template for article writing. So we have a title. So you get the title from the prompt and underline the title. It would be nice to start with a rhetorical question, and then there are many reasons why, and then look at what the topic is about. So we'll start with one side of the argument. On the one hand, can be advantages. So firstly, secondly, thirdly, give the points and development. And then on the other side of the argument, on the other hand, whatever it is can cause problems. So to begin with, furthermore, some people say that, besides, so here we want point and counter argument. Again, if you don't understand what counter argument is, please go watch the video on article writing. Or you can also just give point and development. All in all, this is your conclusion. So pick one side and explain why you are on this side and make sure that you are persuasive. So here we have an example exam question on article writing. If you would like to watch that video now, you can click on this link here or click on the link in the description box below. So this particular question is about whether towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. So I started with the heading, which is parks and green spaces. And in my introduction, I have written a rhetorical question. Can you imagine not seeing a tree for days on end? There are many reasons why towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. So I'm just filling in the blanks. So on the one hand, parks are so important to us. So you can see that I have adjusted the template a little bit. So you have to be flexible if the question does not fit nicely into your template. So I have firstly, secondly, thirdly, points and development. Again, 2 are from the prompt and 1 is my own. And the same for the other side of the argument. On the other hand, having too many parks can also cause problems. All in all, green spaces are essential for cities. We need more parks and gardens to improve quality of life. So I've chosen one side and I have explained why. Here again, I've given you 2 exam questions to try out. See if you can fit these information into the template. Lastly, we have essay, which is new in the syllabus. And here we have the template for it. So no heading. Introduction, we start with nowadays and make a general statement about the issue. There are advantages and disadvantages to, and get this part from the prompt. So again, we start with one side of the argument. On the one hand, whatever it is can be advantages. And then we have firstly, secondly, finally, or thirdly, and we have points and development. On the other hand, whatever it is can also cause problems. To begin with, furthermore, besides, and we have our points and developments. So in conclusion, I believe that, so pick one side and explain why you are on this side. And you can end with the right rules, with the right management, with the right whatever. potential issues can be managed effectively. So here is an example. Now this is an example that I made up. If you would like to watch the video now, you can click on the link up here or click on the link in the description box below. So this essay is about whether students should be allowed to bring mobile phones to school. So I've started with nowadays, most schools do not allow mobile phones on campus. There are advantages and disadvantages to allowing students to bring their phones to school. On the one hand, having a phone can be advantageous, and then I have firstly, secondly, finally with the points and development. On the other hand, phones can also cause problems. To begin with, moreover, furthermore, and I have all my points and development in here. In conclusion, I believe that students should be allowed to bring mobile phones to school. Technology plays a major role in our future and its use should be encouraged. With the right rules, potential issues can be managed effectively. So I picked a side and explained why in a persuasive manner. Here I've given you 2 questions to try. So again, if you have problems, do let me know. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to share it with your friends, hit the like button and subscribe for more tips. Have you mastered the 4 formats yet? If not, let's revise them together. Welcome to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee. Today I'm going to talk about the differences between the 4 formats. I'm going to give you a bird's eye view. So starting with purpose, the purpose of a report is to present findings and suggest improvements. The purpose of a review is to give an opinion on something in order to help others make a decision. The purpose of an article is to inform a general audience on a particular topic. And the purpose of an essay is to argue a point of view in an academic way. Now let's look at the audience. The audience for a report for this particular exam is usually a school principal, a teacher, or an organization. And the audience for a review for the 0510 or 0511 paper is usually your peers, such as students or the general public. And for an article, the audience is usually your peers again, or your school community. And the audience for an essay is usually a teacher. The register means how formal it is. A report is very formal and impersonal. Reviews and articles are semi-formal to informal. And an essay is formal and academic. So here I've included some example questions. Write a report to your principal about the success of an event and suggest improvements for future events. So this is for a report. Now for a review, write a review of a school trip or a film you recently watched. Article, write an article for a school newsletter about whether students should learn a second language. An essay, write an essay on whether social media is beneficial or harmful to teenagers. So here are some differences between the 4 formats. Now let's look at the structure. For paragraph 1, you would introduce the topic for all of them. So in a report, you would provide a summary of the event and also the purpose of the report. In a review, you would summarize the thing being reviewed. In an article and essay, you would introduce the topic, which will be given in the prompt. Now you will see that in paragraph 2, they are all the same. You will present the positive points or the points in favor of the topic. Paragraph 3 is also similar, negative points or points against the topic. In paragraph 4, they are slightly different. In a report, you would give suggestions. In a review, you would give recommendations. In articles and essays, you would pick one side of the argument and persuade the reader to agree with you. Now, I have to mention that a report can be written differently, and so can an essay. However, the reason I've done it this way is so that it's easy for you to remember. So, for example, paragraph 2 is always about the positive points, and paragraph 3 is always about the negative points. So, the similarities, as I've said before, paragraphs 2 and 3 are the same for all the 4 formats if you follow my templates. The main difference is a report has subheadings and suggestions at the end. A review has recommendations at the end. If you use my templates, you will see that my template for article is different from the others because there is a rhetorical question and counter arguments. And for an essay, there is no heading. You will need a heading for all 3 of these formats: report, review, and article, but not for an essay. And here's a bird's eye view of the 4 formats. Again, if you haven't watched that video on how to use these templates, you can click on the link or in the description box below. So for a report, you can see that there's heading and subheadings. For a review, you can see that there is a recommendation. For an article, you can see that I've included rhetorical question and counter arguments. And for an essay, you can see that there's no heading. I hope that you found this short video useful. If you have, please share with your friends, like and subscribe. In this video, I want to show you the 3 types of articles you will likely encounter in the IGCSE ESL exam. The first type will be the most common type, but please don't be surprised if you see type 2 or type 3. If you're writing articles for the first time, you may want to visit this video first. I'll put a link up here for you. Welcome to English Step by Step. My name is Miss Wee. I make videos for English first and second language. First, I want to talk about writing an article. This is by Cambridge. And it says here, the purpose of an article is often to inform and persuade the reader. Articles give the reader information about a certain topic and can also be used to persuade the reader that a certain viewpoint is correct. However, they often provide a balanced argument which lets the reader make up their own mind about the topic. Articles can be used in newspapers or magazines. Now, in the ESL exam is usually a school magazine and will express a particular viewpoint or perspective. This may be positive or negative depending on the topic. The language and vocabulary you use when writing an article will depend on the audience you are writing for. Usually you're writing for your schoolmates, so it is semi-formal. So remember to fulfill your task, which means you have to answer the question. So your content should be relevant. You should be aware of the style, register, purpose, and audience. You should also develop your ideas. I will talk about this a bit later. So for language, you need to have a range of grammatical structures. You need to have accuracy, of course, and your work should be well organized. So tips for writing an article, think about the audience that the article is for. The tone of most articles should be semi-formal. That's what we will be aiming for. Your article should be persuasive, but also engaging. That means interesting. Include a range of grammatical structures and related vocabulary. So you should have some less common vocabulary. Avoid writing very simple sentences with same grammatical structures and simple repetitive vocabulary. So vary your structures and your vocabulary. This is how an article should be organized. An article should have well-developed ideas that are organized into paragraphs as appropriate. Make sure that each paragraph deals with a different idea. Use linking words and phrases. I have videos on this which suit a more formal type of writing. Furthermore, however, in conclusion, so these are some examples. Like I said, I have a video on this. If you're not sure, do go and watch that video. to link ideas in sentences and paragraphs. One way to structure your article is to have a balanced argument. So my templates are all based on this. That is, you discuss the ideas for and against the viewpoint given in the task. Introduction: outline the main point of the article, engage the reader to make them interested in the topic. For example, ask a rhetorical question. So we're going to do this. So in the next paragraph, opinion: agree with the viewpoint expressed in the task, support your ideas with evidence or reasons to persuade the reader. And now you disagree with the viewpoint and again support your ideas with evidence or reasons. In the conclusion, you should summarize what you have said and what you think about the viewpoint. You can link your conclusion back to the beginning or encourage the reader to decide what they think about the same viewpoint. You can also write a one-sided article, but in this video, I'm going to do a balanced argument. So I've simplified the organization, and it should look like this. In the introduction, you outline the main points and engage the readers by asking a rhetorical question. In the next paragraph, you discuss all the positive points. The following paragraph will be about the negative points. And then in your conclusion, you summarize the points and persuade your reader to agree with you. Now, if you're interested in a more detailed video where I talk about development and also counter-argument, please click on the link above and you will get to this video over here. If you're interested in templates for all 4 types of writing, report, review, article, and essay, please go to this video here. I'm going to put a link up here for you. So here are the 3 types of articles. The first type is a discussion about whether something should be done. For example, should we give prizes to students who do well? Should we let children have mobile phones? Should we have more green spaces in cities? So this is the most common type. Then you have this type, which is a discussion about which of 2 options is better. So for example, reading books versus listening to stories, which one is better? Starting school earlier or starting school later, etc. The third type provides general thoughts about a topic. So what makes a film enjoyable, etc. We're going to start with type 1, which is a discussion about whether something should be done. So here we have a question that is of type 1. Your class has been discussing whether receiving prizes for doing well at school is a good idea. Here are 2 comments from your classmates. Prizes are fair because everyone has the same chance of winning. So that's a positive point. There are better ways of getting students to work hard. That's a negative point. Write an article for your teacher giving your views. So this is a template that is very similar to the one given to you in previous videos. Start with the title and get it from the prompt. In the introduction, start with a rhetorical question. There are many reasons why is a topic worth discussing. In the first body paragraph, on the one hand, can be beneficial. Firstly, point and development. Secondly, point and development. So if you don't know what development means, please watch one of my videos on article writing. In body paragraph 2, on the other hand, some people argue that the topic here can also have negative effects. To begin with, point and development. Furthermore, point and development. In the conclusion, all in all, while there are good arguments on both sides, I believe that pick one side and explain why you're on this side.
Should students be given prizes for doing well at school? Who doesn't like receiving a reward for hard work? There are many reasons why giving prizes to students is a topic worth discussing. On the one hand, giving prizes for doing well can be beneficial. Firstly, it motivates students to put in more effort, especially when they know their hard work will be recognized. Secondly, it creates a sense of healthy competition among classmates, which can improve overall performance. On the other hand, some people argue that prizes can also have negative effects. To begin with, not all students can win, which might make some feel discouraged or left out. Furthermore, some say that students should study for knowledge, not just for prizes. Relying too much on rewards could reduce intrinsic motivation. All in all, while there are good arguments on both sides, I believe that prizes can be useful if they are given fairly and not too often. They should reward effort as well as achievement, so that more students feel encouraged and included.
Now let's move on to type 2. So here is a type 2 question. Your class recently held a discussion about whether reading stories in books is better than listening to stories on the radio or online. You have decided to write an article for your school magazine. Here are 2 comments from your classmates. My books are some of my favorite possessions, so that's a positive point for reading stories in books. I can do other things while I'm listening to stories, so that's a positive point for listening to stories on the radio or online. So write an article for your school magazine giving your views. We are going to use this template. First, you have the title. In the introduction, start with many people enjoy both A and B, but which one is better? This has been debated for a long time, in my opinion. So choose one. It's more beneficial or interesting or useful for several reasons. In body paragraph 1, present option A. So in this case, it will be reading books. There are many advantages to reading books. Firstly, point and development. Secondly, point and development again. In body paragraph 2, you present the other option. In this case, it will be listening to stories. So on the one hand, listening to stories also has its benefits. For example, point and development. In addition, point and development. In the conclusion, you should make your choice and justify it. Overall, while both options have their merits, I believe, and then pick one, it's better. It offers more long-term advantages and helps us grow in ways that the second option cannot. Now let's look at a sample answer based on this template.
Is reading books better than listening to stories? Many people enjoy both reading books and listening to stories, but which one is better? This has been debated for a long time. In my opinion, reading books is more beneficial for several reasons. There are many advantages to reading books. Firstly, it improves our vocabulary and spelling. When we see words on a page, we learn how they are written and used in different contexts. Secondly, reading develops focus and imagination. Unlike listening, which can be more passive, reading requires full attention and allows our minds to picture the scenes in our own way. On the other hand, listening to stories also has its benefits. For example, it allows people to multitask. You can listen while walking, cleaning, or relaxing. In addition, listening to expressive voices can bring characters and emotions to life. Overall, while both options have their merits, I believe reading books is better. It offers more long-term advantages and helps us grow in ways that listening to stories cannot.
Now let's move on to type 3. So this is a type 3 question. Your class has recently been talking about films and you have decided to write an article for your school magazine. In your magazine, write about what you think makes a film enjoyable. Here are some comments from students in your class. I like films about real events. I prefer films with famous actors in them. So these are positive things. Most films are too long. Too many films are about the same thing. So these are negative points. Now write an article for the school magazine giving your views. So type 3 template is very simple. We have the title. In the introduction, write a hook. Have you ever? And then, in my opinion, a few key things. In body paragraph 1, write firstly and secondly, and then point and development for each. In body paragraph 2, on the other hand, point and development, also point and development. In the concluding paragraph, in the end, and you can do a summary of the points. Here is an example response using type 3 template.
What makes a film worth watching? Have you ever watched a film and felt completely bored, even though it had a big budget? In my opinion, a few key things can make or break the experience. Firstly, I enjoy films with a strong storyline. especially if they are based on real events. They feel more powerful and meaningful. Secondly, a great soundtrack or stunning visuals can make a film unforgettable. On the other hand, some films are just too slow-moving. I find it hard to stay focused when nothing much happens for an hour. Also, many films use the same ideas again and again. Superheroes, explosions, and nothing new. That gets boring quickly. In the end, a good film should make you feel something or stay in your mind. If it does that, it's definitely worth watching.
So I have used 1 point from the prompt here, and the second one is my own. Same for the next paragraph. I have used 1 point here from the prompt, and then the next one is my own. If you found this video useful, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. This video is made in response to a request by Daily Life Tips by Salima Baji. Thank you so much, ma'am. You're a lifesaver. Ma'am, can you please make the video about the advanced template for article writing? So that's what I will be doing today. It will be a very quick one because I've already made a few videos on article writing. In this video, I will be giving you 3 intermediate templates and 3 advanced ones, 1 sample for the intermediate one and another sample for the advanced one. If you want templates for all the other types of writing, report, review, and essay, please look for this video. I will put a link up here. Welcome to English Step by Step. My name is Miss Wee and I make free video lessons for English first and second language. If you're writing article for the first time, I would suggest that you visit this video first. I'll put a link up here for you. Today we will be tackling this question. Many teenagers are now discussing whether the school day should start later and finish later. Here are 2 comments from your classmates. I don't want to have less free time after school. I never go to bed before midnight, so I hate early mornings. Write an article giving your views. If you're interested in the planning stage and also candidate responses and examiner comments and also analysis of the mark scheme, you might want to visit this video. I will put a link up here for you. And now I'm going to start with template 1. You put the title here and you start with a rhetorical question. There are several reasons why this essay has sparked debate. In this paragraph, you talk about the positive points. On the one hand, can be seen as a positive development, and then firstly, secondly, point and development. For negative points, on the other hand, the topic may also lead to certain disadvantages. To start with, additionally, and point and development, or you can also do point and counter argument. If you don't understand what counter argument is, or if you think I'm going too fast with this, you don't understand what I'm saying, please go back to the video that I recommended earlier. All things considered, so choose one side and give your reason. We have a sample for template 1 here. Should the school day start later? Have you ever wondered whether starting school later in the day could actually help students? There are several reasons why this issue has sparked debate. On the one hand, a later school start can be seen as a positive development. Firstly, teenagers often struggle to wake up early due to natural changes in their body clocks. Starting school later would allow them to get more sleep and improve their focus. Secondly, studies have shown that students who sleep longer perform better academically and feel less stressed during the day. On the other hand, changing the school start time may also lead to certain disadvantages. To start with, it could create problems for working parents who rely on current schedules. Additionally, some people believe that ending school later would interfere with extracurricular activities and homework time. All things considered, I believe school should start later. Helping students learn better and feel healthier should always be the priority. So that was template 1. Moving on to template 2. Again, start with title and rhetorical question. This is a question many people ask today. On the one hand, it makes sense to support this idea. So firstly, secondly, point and development. On the other hand, for negative points, not everyone agrees. Some argue that, and moreover, and then you have point and counter argument or point and development. In conclusion, although both sides have valid points, I believe that because. So choose one side and give your reasons. Here we have template 3, again title and a rhetorical question. Is it truly beneficial or does it do more harm than good? This is a topic with strong opinions on both sides. Positive, on the one hand, the topic offers many benefits. To begin with, also point and development. And the negative side, on the other hand, the topic is not without risks. Some people point out that, in addition, so again, point and counter argument or point and development. All in all, I believe that outweigh the disadvantages because, so give your final opinion and explain why. And now we have template 4, which is the advanced one. So get your title from the prompt. To what extent should we embrace the topic in today's fast-changing world? This topic demands careful consideration. So I've already included some sophisticated vocabulary. On the one hand, can lead to substantial progress. For instance, moreover, proponents argue that. So proponents are people who agree. So we have point and development. On the other hand, critics caution against excessive reliance on. Do you notice the advanced vocabulary here? Citing concerns such as, so again, point and counter argument or point and development. Additionally, it might exacerbate issues like another advanced vocabulary here. Ultimately, while I acknowledge the concerns, I maintain that presents more advantages than disadvantages, particularly when implemented thoughtfully. So there are some advanced sentence structures as well. Here we have a sample using template 4. Should the school day start later? To what extent should we embrace changes to school schedules in today's fast-changing world? This topic demands careful consideration. On the one hand, starting school later can lead to real benefits. For instance, teenagers naturally struggle with early mornings due to changes in their sleep patterns. A later start allows them to rest properly, improving focus and academic performance. Moreover, well-rested students are generally calmer and more engaged, which creates a better classroom environment. On the other hand, critics warn that changing school times could create problems for working parents who depend on early drop-offs. Additionally, a delayed schedule may clash with after-school activities and cause transport difficulties, making the day feel even longer. Ultimately, while these concerns are valid, I believe starting school later offers more advantages. When done carefully, it supports students' health and learning, helping them thrive in a demanding world. I think you can see the difference between this sample and the earlier one. This one is more advanced. Now we have another advanced template. So the title, can we afford to ignore in the modern age? As society evolves, this question becomes increasingly relevant. Supporters of the topic here often highlights its positive consequences. Primarily, furthermore, it has the potential to point and development. Conversely, opponents warn that the topic could lead to unintended negative outcomes. One major concern is, and in some cases might even result in, point and counter argument or point and development. In conclusion, although there are clear risks, I believe the potential rewards justify its careful adoption. Again, I'm sure you can see the advanced vocabulary and advanced sentence structures. This is the final one. Title, Is it a bold step forward or a dangerous path? Opinions are sharply divided on this issue. Supporters of the topic claim it empowers individuals and transforms society. For example, they also argue that point and development. However, not everyone shares this optimism. Critics contend that, furthermore, it could lead to a breakdown in, and you have point and development or point and counter argument. All in all, despite valid concerns, I am firmly in favor of, so pick one side, as I believe its benefits, when handled responsibly. So you have the double dash, which is an advanced sentence structure, far outweigh the risks. I hope you found this helpful. If so, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. This is an extension of the last video on tenses to use for emails, but this will be for the report, review, article, and essay. Welcome back to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee, and let's start with the report. I have already done a video on this question. Do go and look for it. But in this video, I will not go into the details. I only want to show you how to decide on what tense to use. If you look at this particular question, it says, in your report, say what was enjoyable about the sports festival. So a report is usually on something that has already happened, and then suggest how it could be improved. So this would be in the future. Could is a modal verb, and we should also use modal verbs in this paragraph when we are suggesting improvements. So here is an example that I already showed you in my video on report writing. So you can see that I've used past tense. And this paragraph would be in past tense because this event is already finished. And the same for negative points. Again, you can see that I have used past tense. However, for the suggestions, I would be using modal verbs. Rock climbing, archery, and fencing should be offered. An extended duration would also greatly enhance the overall experience. So for suggestions, you can use modal verbs such as should, would, sorry, there should be a comma here, can, could, etc. So that's for the report. Usually we would use past tense for the positive and negative points and modal verbs for the suggestions. And next we have review. And here we have a question. You recently visited a new shopping center in your town. You have decided to write a review of the center for your school magazine. Although your visit was in the past, the shopping center is still there, and therefore your review would be in present tense. As you can see, the comments are mainly in present tense. This one is in past tense. You can also use past tense if you had a particular experience on that day itself. So here is an example of a review. If you want to watch the video on review writing, please click on the link up here. So here you can see that I've used present tense. And the next paragraph is also present tense. And in the next one, the negative points, they're also present tense. And in the conclusion, is also present tense. So reviews are usually all in present tense. Moving on to the article. So if you're interested in article writing, please click on the link above. This is the question that I did in that particular video. In class, you recently had a discussion about whether towns and cities should have more parks and green spaces. So that's a modal verb. You have decided to write an article for your school magazine. Here are some comments from students in your class. So you can see that comments are mainly in present tense because we are discussing an issue that exists now. So articles are usually in present tense. And here is an example of the article. So you can see that I've used present tense again, and also present tense in the concluding paragraph. Finally, we have the essay. This is a new format in the new syllabus. So I've made this question out. In class, you have discussed whether students should be allowed to bring mobile phones to school. So we have a modal verb. And if you look at the comments, you can see that they are in present tense. It's because we are discussing an issue that exists now. So here's the essay. If you're interested in the video, do click on the link above. So you can see that I've used present tense in the introduction, present tense when presenting the advantages, and present tense when discussing the disadvantages, and present tense in the concluding paragraph as well. So the same thing as in review in the essay, I would also use present tense throughout. So here is a summary of what I've said so far. In the report, we would use past tense for the first part when we're discussing the good and bad points. But when we're making suggestions in the second part, I would use modal verbs. In the review, article, and essay, you would use present tense unless you are talking specifically about something that happened in the past. I hope you have found this useful. If so, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Do also check out my other videos. If you have questions, please leave them in the comment box below. And if you need tutoring, you can contact me here.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Whether you're writing an essay, a report, or just want to improve your writing style, mastering sentence structures is a must. Let's get started. First up, we've got the simple sentence. As the name suggests, it's the most basic type of sentence. A simple sentence consists of a subject and a verb, and it expresses a complete thought. It's a sentence that stands on its own. Example, the dog barked. This sentence has a subject, the dog, and a verb, barked. Simple, right? It might not be the most exciting, but it's clear and to the point. Next, let's talk about compound sentences. These are great when you want to link two ideas that are related. A compound sentence contains two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. The most common conjunctions are and so, but because. Example, the dog barked and the cat ran away. Here, we have two simple sentences joined by and. Both parts could stand alone as separate sentences, but by joining them with a conjunction, we create a more dynamic sentence. Now let's level up with complex sentences. These sentences have an independent clause and at least one dependent clause. The dependent clause cannot stand alone, but it adds important information to the sentence. Example, the dog barked because it saw a stranger. In this sentence, the dog barked is independent. It makes sense on its own, but because it saw a stranger depends on the first part to make sense. The dependent clause gives us more details about why the dog barked. Ready for the ultimate sentence type? Compound complex sentences combine both compound and complex structures. These sentences have at least two independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. Example, the dog barked because it saw a stranger, and the cat hid under the couch. Here, we've got two independent clauses, the dog barked and the cat hid under the couch, plus a dependent clause because it saw a stranger. You can see how this structure lets us express more complex ideas. Now, why does any of this matter? Well, using a variety of sentence structures keeps your writing interesting and helps you express more complicated ideas clearly. That's it for today's lesson. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more writing tips. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, drop a comment below. See you in the next one. Happy writing!
Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into one of the most important aspects of English writing, punctuation. It might seem simple, but good punctuation can make a huge difference in how clear and professional your writing is. So, let's get started. First up, the full stop, also known as a period. This is probably the easiest punctuation mark to remember. You use it at the end of a sentence that's complete and makes sense on its own. For example, the cat is sleeping. Without the full stop, it wouldn't feel like the sentence is finished, right? Just remember, every sentence that isn't a question or an exclamation needs a full stop. Next up is the comma. Commas are super versatile and can be tricky at first, but with a bit of practice, you'll get the hang of it. Use commas to separate items in a list. For example, I bought apples, oranges, bananas, and grapes. Notice how we use commas between each item in the list? Commas are also used to separate clauses within a sentence. For example, after we finished dinner, we went for a walk. Here, the comma separates the two parts of the sentence. Now the question mark. This one's simple. You use it at the end of a question. Easy, right? For example, what time is it? Without the question mark, it wouldn't feel like you're asking anything. So remember, if it's a question, always use a question mark. Exclamation marks are used when you want to show excitement, surprise, or a strong emotion. But don't overdo it. One exclamation mark is usually enough. For example, wow, that's amazing! The exclamation mark shows that you're really excited. Let's talk about apostrophes. We use apostrophes in two main ways: to show possession or to form contractions. For possession, you add an apostrophe and S after a noun. For example, this is Sarah's book. That shows the book belongs to Sarah. And for contractions, an apostrophe replaces missing letters. For example, can't is short for cannot, and the apostrophe takes the place of the missing letters. Quotation marks are used when you're writing what someone else said. For example, he said, "I'm going to the park." You put the exact words of the person between quotation marks. Colons and semicolons are a bit more advanced. Use a colon to introduce a list or explanation. For example, there are 3 things you need: a pencil, paper, and a ruler. And semicolons are used to link closely related ideas. For example, she loves chocolate, he prefers vanilla. They're separate ideas, but they're related, so we use a semicolon to connect them. And that's a wrap on today's lesson about punctuation. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future lessons. See you next time.